Alright, guys, so this is another what if scenario, and this one's more in line with the Marvel what if, as you can tell. This is more, and I'm surprised actually that this hasn't been a what if, right? Like, I think we could all agree that, everyone should be shocked that, yeah, why hasn't Marvel done this as a what if what if comic? But then again, like, their own what if comics just sporadically come and go. Like, remember when they brought back, like, for Chip Zdarsky's The Spider's Shadow, which was like, what if Spider-Man kept the symbiote, and it had a whole new logo and everything, and then here it is. There it goes. It was that. So, I'm this. I think would be cool as like a what if. Like, they did do What If Dark. I will say that they did like a What If Dark comic. So let's say this actually gets to be this could actually happen. Although I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. And that is, what if Frank Castle became Moon Knight? Like, what would that be like if instead of Mark Spector becoming the Fist of Khonshu, what if it was Frank Castle? Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, they did that already. It was with the hand. I'm like, yeah, but that's different. He was possessed by the beast. He was possessed to be the avatar of the beast, and he had a whole clan of ninjas. Here, it's it would be a little different scenario. Yes, he would be the avatar of a god, but he would have he's on his own still. So let's talk about what that scenario would be. Like, how would, in this what if scenario, Frank Castle become the Punisher? Well, for this, Moon Knight has to it has to happen. The crime has to happen at night. So instead of like a family picnic, I would have it, if I wrote this comic, basically what it would be is that Frank Castle took his family out on a movie night, and they got caught in a drive-by during a mafia hit. Like, they were just some unfortunate people who got caught in the middle of this mafia drive-by. So, Frank goes down, and that's when Khonshu comes to him and is like, you want vengeance, I can give you that power, all you have to be is my fist. And Frank is just like, I don't care, I got a war now. So that's how I would have Frank Castle in this scenario be the go from, instead of being the Punisher, to being the Fist of Khonshu, Moon Knight. So, how I would design the costume, I don't know, but I would definitely incorporate the skull. But instead of like a normal Punisher skull, I'd have like Khonshu's skull head. With the design they've been using for Khonshu for a while, where it's like that bird skull. So it represents his god, his new god, but it also is like a cool reference to that time. Also, I would also have that Punisher's Moon Knight costume would probably be black and white. Again, like, his original costume was black and white, but here he'd wear a lot more black. The insignia would be white, the white gloves and boots, something like that. But yeah, that's how I would remake this new costume for Frank Castle. So let's talk about the implications of having Frank Castle being Moon Knight. Let's really dive into what if Frank Castle became Moon Knight. So obviously the first thing in this scenario is that if you thought Moon Knight's villain or Punisher's list, I should say, Punisher's rogues gallery was small, it's going to be a lot smaller, because Frank now can just end people with metahuman strength. Remember, a lot of Moon Knight's strength comes from the waning of the moon. Plus, he can come back, and although it is revealed in the Jed MacKay run that whenever a Fist of Khonshu is brought back, they aren't brought back mentally whole. So Frank's already kind of out there already. So imagine what it would be like of every time he died, because I imagine now that he knows, he can die and get brought back by Khonshu, Frank would be a little more carefree with his state of well-being, shall we say, and probably throw himself into more dangerous situations, knowing that Khonshu will bring him back, but every time he does... Now, I'm not saying, he'd be like, bullets don't hurt me, and just run into, a hail of gunfire, knowing that Khonshu will bring him back. I do think, however, and I think even Castle even as Moon Knight, would, even though he would know this, I think he would still play smart of knowing that Khonshu would bring him back. Obviously Khonshu wouldn't tell him that the Fist of Khonshu, whenever they're resurrected, becomes less and less mentally stable. I don't think Castle would care about that. All he would care about is the war. Like, that's really all he would really care about, is the war. But the thing of it is that he would be he'd be willing to take, if it meant taking out a target, he'd willingly put himself out in the open and get shot if it meant he could get the killing blow on his target. So, like I said, I don't think he would be like he'd be like running into a hail of gunfire or whatever, but he would be like willing to take a little more, like, all right, this is going to cost me coming back, but just pop someone. And that's the other thing you have to take into account, is that this Moon Knight would be using guns. Not to say Mark Spector never used guns, but Frank Castle would be using a huge armament. Like, Moon Knight usually has like special gear and he will use guns, but Frank Castle isn't going to make moonarangs, shall we say. He's going to be using bullets. And a lot of bullets. All in the name of not so much his god, because I don't think even with Khonshu like trying to direct Castle, I think it's more like he is going to like Castle's just going to be like, whatever, you're just like, as he said in the Jason Aaron Punisher comic, it's just a tool, like everything I use is a weapon, and it helps fight the war. So if that means working in this scenario, being a crazy moon god's avatar, yeah, he's fine with that, as long as he gets the weapons he needs to fight to fight this war. Castle also would probably have to train himself to like, he already has he's pretty good with stealth and a pretty damn good hand-to-hand fighter, but yeah, I do see that he's not on the same like fighting style level as Mark. So that would kind of be an impediment, and he'd have to train himself, whether that be under the other hand of Khonshu, Dr. Badir, who in this scenario would probably still be alive. Again, a character from the Jed MacKay run. And yeah, he unlike Mark, where some of the characters in the Avengers and all that, and X-Men and the other characters would probably be like, yeah, Mark's crazy, but we usually let him in because he's, he does do good from time to time. Here it'd be like, no, we are taking out this Moon Knight guy, and we're dropping him hard. So yeah, I think this would be really cool, and I really hope I'm shocked Marvel hasn't done this as like a what if comic. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you think it would be like if Frank Castle had become Moon Knight? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.